us to love out loud. Spirit speaks, we hear the sound of all creation rising now. Free our families where freedom bound. For all our children, freedom now. Faith calls us to love out loud. Spirit speaks, we hear the sound. All creation rising now. Free our families with freedom now. For all our children, freedom now. It calls us to love out loud. Spirit speaks, we hear the sound. All creation rising now. Free our families with freedom bound. For all our children, freedom now. It calls us to love out loud. Spirit speaks, we hear the sound of all creation rising now. Free our families with freedom bound. All our children, freedom bound. All our children, freedom
Good evening and welcome everyone to our fourth Sunday of our Black August service as a part of the Jubilee season with Freedom Church of the Poor. I'm Minister Ciara Taylor and I am joining with a black shirt on, still have the purple hair for now, and without further ado, we'll open with our accessibility statement. Here at Freedom Church of the Poor, we strive to make this space accessible to all. We invite you to come as you are, to act out of empathy, to hold each other in our full humanity, to hold ourselves and others accountable, but always with grace and love, and to dream of a world where all can thrive. Thank you so much for New Disabled South for inspiring this accessibility statement and practice. And we're going to go into our mission statement of Freedom Church of the Poor. The Freedom Church of the Poor is a spiritual and political home for movement leaders. We believe in the fundamental dignity and value of all life and in a world of abundance where all can thrive. We gather as a community of faith to support and care for each other. We commit to realizing the abundant world God promises by identifying, developing, and uniting leaders who will build a movement to end poverty led by the poor. In this community, and through our commitment to this struggle, we also seek to rediscover and share a vision and practice of religion that is rooted in truth, justice, and love. And I'll invite Reverend Dr. Letiah Fraser for our Black August season statement.
All right, good evening, fam. Good to be with you. My name is Reverend Dr. Letiah Fraser. I am a Black American woman with long black and purple locks and wearing an aqua green shirt. So our season statement for Black August. The Freedom Church of the Poor is positioned in the long tradition of freedom movements that understood spirituality and social transformation as inseparable from the spiritual sung by enslaved Africans, to the freedom songs of the civil rights movement, to the prayers rising from prison cells, labor strikes, migrant communities, welfare rights struggles, and rebellion in the streets. Faith has sustained generations of organizers, revolutionaries, artists, workers, and everyday people fighting for collective liberation. We honor the sacred traditions that have nourished movements for justice, Black church traditions, liberation theology, indigenous spiritual practices, Islam, Buddhism, ancestral practices, and the many ways oppressed people have called upon spirit to survive, heal, and organize. Grounded in the lessons of the Watts Uprising, the 1968 Poor People's Campaign, the original Rainbow Coalition, the League of Revolutionary Black Workers, welfare rights organizing, labor struggles, and freedom movements across the globe, this Black August series seeks to strengthen moral and political leadership for this moment. We believe that the fight against mass incarceration cannot be separated from the fight for immigrant justice. We believe that democracy cannot exist without millions, what cannot exist while millions are denied housing, healthcare, living wages, safety, and political representation. We believe that solidarity across communities is not optional. It is necessary for survival and transformation. As we gather in worship, study, cultural expression, testimony, and collective reflection, we lift up the legacy of those who came before us and prepare ourselves for the struggles ahead. We come together not only to remember, but to build, not only to mourn, but to organize, not only to resist, but to imagine and create a society rooted in dignity, justice, beloved community, liberation, and liberation for all people. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Doctor. This is Minister Ciara again, and welcome. Welcome to our service tonight. Tonight we gather as artists and organizers, workers and dreamers, remembering that people have always turned to faith, culture, and to each other in the struggle for liberation. We gather especially in honor of political prisoners, their families and communities, and with immigrants and migrants whose lives are too often criminalized, separated, exploited, and denied dignity. And in preparation for this evening's service, there was a song that just kept coming up for me. And so I would like to share. By the rivers of Babylon, where he sat down, and there he wept when he remembered Zion. If all the wicked carried us away, captivity required from our system, how can we sing King Alpha's song in a strange land? So let the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight. Oh, for this song, these words were brought to us in the 1970s by Boney M. And in turn brought these words in to popular culture, but they actually come from Psalm 137, which is a song of a people in exile. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down and there we wept when we remembered Zion. A people who were taken from their home, a people living under domination, a people carrying memory when they no longer possessed freedom. And their captors said, "Sing for us." And the question becomes, how do you sing a freedom song in the house of an oppressor? And in Psalm 137, the answer is clear. We remember. We remember who we are. We remember where we come from. And we remember what freedom feels like, even in moments of brutal oppression and exploitation. And in that, we refuse to let our oppression erase our radical imagination. And in that, our collective memory can become resistance itself. And we gather tonight knowing this truth and also understanding that faith is not an escape from history or our oppression. It is a practice that we can use to remain in the struggle. We know that prayer is not a substitute for organizing. It is a way for us to stay grounded in who we are as a people, knowing for whom we organize and from whom we come from. And we know that worship is not only about another world over there or beyond, but a declaration of the beloved community that is accessible when we live it in our daily practice. It is about asking, what kind of world are we building in this one? And that question brings us together tonight. Because the fight against mass incarceration cannot be separated from immigrant justice. The fight for political prisoners cannot be separated from the fight of all workers for housing, for healthcare, for safety, for dignity. And we know that none of us can truly be free while others are treated as disposable. So tonight we remember those who came before us, not simply to honor them, but to continue in the path they set out before us. We come to worship, to study, to make culture together, to testify, to mourn, and to give each other the fuel that we need to continue organizing in this long and protracted struggle. To let our imprisoned loved ones know that they are remembered. To let our immigrant and migrant siblings know that they belong. To let our ancestors speak for us. And to let our worship become work, and our work to become love, and for our love to become liberation. By the rivers of Babylon, we remember. By the rivers of Babylon, we sing, and we keep singing, and we keep remembering, and we keep testifying and working to make sure that everyone is free. And we would like to start off this evening's service in remembrance of a very powerful leader who came before us, Dr. Joanna Fernandez. I didn't know Dr. Fernandez very well. We would see each other often in the People's Forum, a community justice community where I worked in New York City and organized from. And being from the South and moving to New York, I remember that there was always the question whenever we were organizing something, whenever we were studying something, someone would always ask, Is Dr. Joanna Fernandez involved in this? Does she know about this? She was just that kind of leader. She understood that our struggles were all connected, and she gave voice to those that history, that the state would have us forget. And in her testimony, in her remembrance, in her quest for knowledge, not just individual knowledge, for all of us to have the tools to get free. We gather today in honor of that great spirit that was Dr. Fernandez. And so I really appreciate Minister Arelis Figueroa, my dear sister, and Freedom Church, and organizing, and Songs in the Key of Resistance, and so much else, for lifting up Dr. Fernandez and insisting that we take time to honor her life and her legacy. And so I'll pass it to Minister Arelis Figueroa for a special tribute.
Thank you. Arelis Figueroa, Afro-Dominican women have a stole that is purple and white dress. We have no come here alone. We carry our people in our bones. We have no come here alone. If you listen, you can hear there in our soul. If you listen, you can hear there in our soul. We have no come here alone. We carry our people in our bone. We have no come here alone. If you listen, you can hear there in our soul. If you listen, you can hear there in our soul. When I was invited a few weeks ago to say some word at Joanna Fernandez's funeral, there was this song that came to my heart and my mind. As we know, this is a song from Letiah and the Peace Poet. I share this song because now that she's no longer with us, now that she's an ancestor, we carry her, and forever we'll carry her in our bones. I met Joanna, maybe like many of you, in the street, in the struggle, organizing, demanding justice for our communities, especially for our Black and brown communities. We marched together in Harlem. She came to La Iglesia del Pueblo, one of our special services on Latin America and the Caribbean. And yeah, I wish we have more time with her, but honor to have known her. But who was Joanna Fernandez? Joanna was a fierce fighter for justice, an Afro-Latina woman, a child of Dominican immigrants. She became associate professor of history at Baruch College. Joanna was unaware of the young lords until her junior years at Brown University, when she took a class that covered the group, and was angered that it had been erased from public memory. That's why she made it her mission to write a full history of the young lord. That book, The History of the Young Lord, was first the subject of her PhD dissertation at Columbia, which she completed in 2004 and later expanded into a book. And in 2021, the book won the Frederick Jackson Turner Award from the Organization of American Historians. This research, all this work in this book, took her years of archives, hundreds of interviews, and in the process, Joanna had the courage, the tenacity to sue the NYPD to force them to disclose millions of lost records. That is courage. That was Joanna. In college at Brown University, she became a public activist, a fighter for equity in higher education, which she continued in her graduate years at Columbia and as a professor at Baruch College and the CUNY Graduate Center. Long involved in prisoner defense work, Joanna began visiting Mumia Abu Jamal when she had a postdoctoral at Carnegie Mellon. And that began a political partnership, a deep friendship that transformed so many people across the country. During her funeral a few weeks ago, Mumia called from prison and delivered a powerful, heartfelt message to her friend, to her comrade, and sister who support him until the last day of her life. She fought on many fronts in her writing work and teaching, in the documentary that she made, in speaking to countless groups, in mentoring her students and young activists across the country, in being willing to raise her voice at protests after protests, in often being one of the first to step forward. Others found courage in her courage and found they could step forward too. That work was immeasurably hard, yet she refused to defeat it. As one of her dear friends and colleagues put it, Joanna let suffering get close to her, and whether it was in how a student was being mistreated or half a war away in the genocide in Palestine, she was clear that suffering was immoral and should not stand. And thus we have a responsibility to raise our voices, to try different things, to make it know this was unjust. God is in the work was one of Joanna's phrases that she used to say in the moment when friends and Cora grew discouraged. God is in the work. We don't necessarily need to succeed now, but we have to try. That's what she used to say. God is in the work. So carry her in our bonds, in our soul. It's not just to remember her, but to carry on that fight. Rest in power, dear friend. Descansa en poder, querida amiga. Joanna Fernandez, presente. Joanna vive, la lucha sigue. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Arelis. Joanna, presente. Thank you for that. And next, I would like to invite up dear brother Abraham Paulos from Black Alliance for Just Immigration. Thank you so much, Abe, for joining us this evening. I knew as we were planning this service and talking about the intersections of political prisoners that we honored during the month of Black August and the struggle for immigrant rights, that we needed to have someone from Baji. And after our conversation like months ago, I was like, oh, I got to get Abe to Freedom Church. And so thank you for joining and welcome.
Thank you so much. It is an honor to also be invited during the celebration of life. Shout out to Arelis, thank you so much for opening up the space like that, and for your comrade. So I'm here to make a couple of connections, particularly around the connection around mass incarceration and immigration. And I wish this was about immigration, but it's not. It's about Black and brown people and land, and that's where all of this kind of started with, right? I also just want to, before I say what I'm going to say, I want to say that I'm extremely biased because of a experience that I personally had, and that got me into this work. And I love the saying, God is in the work. I've never heard of that, but that will forever inspire me. I got into this work because I got picked up years ago for a robbery in Brooklyn, and I ended up in Rikers Island. I didn't do this robbery, but that doesn't necessarily matter for those of us that get incarcerated, right? Innocence is actually the last thing that the system cares about. But it was while I was in Rikers, and thanks to my my fellow inmates that were incarcerated with me, that taught me that Immigration Customs Enforcement, ICE, also had an office on the island that was deporting New Yorkers for decades. And in fact, for a very long time, 77 to 78% of New Yorkers that were getting deported were coming off the island, regardless if they were innocent or guilty. Like I said, that the system does not matter. And that's how I got into this work. There were elders already working on it, right? Folks from the Caribbean countries, Dominican Republic, whether it was Jamaicans, particularly Haitians also. So I say that to just sort of say that I came into work that was already building, trying to dismantle this relationship between mass incarceration and immigration. And like I said in the beginning, I wish this was a conversation around what is happening now that is happening to immigrants, but it is not, because the whole foundation of this country was that they had stolen land from brown people, and they stole Black people to work that stolen land. And forever will be the creation of that sin that we will always have to deal with. And we can deal with it in the ways that they want to deal with it now, which is trying to continue a carceral state, or they can deal with it in other ways, in the ways that we deal with everything else in our lives that cause harm and pain, is through restorative justice. And until that happens, I'm going to talk about what is happening today. It is built off many wars. And it started, like I said, when they stole people to work the stolen land. Recently, in the last 4 or 5 decades, this war, we now know it as the war on drugs. We now know it as the war on crime. We now know it as the war on poverty. We now know it as the war on terror. So that's about 4 or 5 wars that this government essentially had looked at the conditions of Black and brown people and decided that Congress and the government was going to go to war on Black and brown people. I'm not being hyperbolic about it, because they use the words war. And I think that if the enemy uses the words war, then I'm going to act accordingly. And I'm going to call it for what it is. And they used the justification through the creation of monsters. So for the war on drugs, the monster that they created was the crackhead. The monster that they created were crack fiends, right? And the drug dealers. For the war on crime, the monster that they created was called the super predator, the gang member, right? For the war on poverty, the monster that they had created was the welfare queen, right? Basically disrespecting black and brown mothers. And the war that they created for the war on terror, that monster was, quote unquote, the terrorist. And I know this, that while I was incarcerated through Rikers, we had understood that up until 2024, Immigration Customs Enforcement, about 76 to 80% of their apprehensions were through the criminal legal system. And when I say the criminal legal system, I mean the police, the prisons, and the courts, right? So there were times, 2014, I think, was the highest, 86% of ICE's apprehensions were through the criminal legal system. So they had been operating in the shadows, in the darkness of mass incarceration for about 20 years, since Department of Homeland Security became it in 2003. And that's why they're outside and they can't show their faces because of the dirt that they have been doing for the last 2 decades. Hiding in Rikers, hiding in Attica, San Quentin, and going through the prisons, finding out who was not born in the United States, interrogating us, using ruses to pretend that they were police officers investigating homicides, robberies, things that they knew that this person was not involved in. And so now that machine, which was created by feeding it, quote unquote, people that were incarcerated, we now have this machine that is roaming around our communities, schools, hospitals, shooting people in the head at nauseum or whatever have you. And I think that connection between mass incarceration and what we're seeing with quote unquote immigration enforcement, because it's not about immigration, right? It's quote unquote putting Black and brown people in a carceral state, continuing the war that they have started for a very, very long time. And I think it's important to make those connections because it will change the way that we fight that system. So if we say that this is about immigration and this is about papers, whether you have papers or you don't have papers, the way that we fight against that system is going to look differently than if we call it for what it is and say the original sin of this country was stolen land and stolen people. And ever since that and the long line of Black liberation that's been happening in this country, right, we need to see that what mass incarceration is what the enforcement of ICE is doing in our communities. And so with that, as far as how do we move forward? Because I know I only have a few minutes because I can talk a lot about the war, right? How do we move forward? I think we act accordingly. If they call it a war and if they feel that they are in a war, then we should not take those words lightly. I think we need to go beyond allyship and really talk about friends and family. That's what's going to help us get through what we have to get through. And that is the type of love and understanding that we need right now. And not, I think, allyship or allies. I think we need allies, obviously, in certain things. But right now, we need friends, family, and maybe faith. Well, actually, faith. Well, I'll say we need faith also. Okay. I didn't think that they were all going to have F, like the letter F. But yeah, friends, family, and faith in the way that we move forward, right? In all of this. I think it is also going to take an understanding of the liberation movements before us. Arelis talked about sort of the brown berets, what worked, what didn't work. We knew that the NYPD was lying about those folks, just in the way that we see ISIS lying about the people that they murder, right? And I think understanding our past, understanding the trials and error and the lessons learned moving forward would help us have a better understanding of how we are going to not just get to where we need to get to, but also continue the liberation fight that we have been fighting for the last couple of decades and that our elders have put forth on it. We're not starting from a place that is new, right? We are starting from a place that has already been laid out for us. And those lessons have been laid out for us. And the more we learn about that, we can move forward. And so I'll stop right there. And again, truly indebted and forever grateful to be in community with you all.
Thank you so much, Abe. Yes, please show some love to Abe in the chat. And next, we're going to have another song with Minister Arelis. Arelis, did you want to introduce this song before we played it?
Yeah. Yes, a famous song in Latin America. I never know how to pronounce the last name. But that song became a hymn, especially during the Malvinas War. And now it's continued to be a hymn, un himno en contra de la guerra, against war. Solo le pido a Dios. Y lo voy a estar cantando con el amigo Ruben Gonzalez del People Music Network.
Solo le pido a Dios.
Solo le pido a Dios que el dolor no me sea indiferente, que la reseca muerte no me encuentre vacía y sola sin haber hecho lo suficiente. Solo le pido a Dios que lo injusto no me sea indiferente, que no me abofete en la otra mejilla, después de una garra me arañó esta suerte. Solo le pido a Dios que la guerra no me sea indiferente. Es un monstruo grande y pisa fuerte toda la pobre inocencia de la gente. Es un monstruo grande y pisa fuerte toda la pobre inocencia de la gente. Solo le pido a Dios que el engaño no me sea indiferente. Si un traidor puede más que unos cuantos, que esos cuantos no lo olviden fácilmente. Solo le pido a Dios que el futuro no me sea indiferente. Desahuciado es el que tiene que marchar a vivir una cultura diferente. Solo le pido a Dios que la guerra no me sea indiferente. Es un monstruo grande y pisa fuerte toda la pobre inocencia de la gente. Es un monstruo grande y pisa fuerte toda la pobre inocencia de la gente.
Wow. I know. Yes, clap it up. I told Minister Arelis earlier, I just like your voice just, it's so beautiful. And this just touches so deeply. Thank you so much to you and Ruben. I just have to say this line for folks in English. I only ask of God that war not leave me indifferent. It's a big monster and it steps hard on all the poor innocence of the people. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Minister Arelis. And next, I would like to invite up my dear sister, Ruth. We've known each other for over a decade, organizing and just being in community. And I appreciate you so much for joining us this evening and offering prayers for our people.
Ashe, thank you. I already feel like my spirit has really been nourished being here. So thank you for inviting me. And to a free to land, it's true. It's so right. Like, it's almost like in anything that we're doing, especially on this Black August, that we have to remember our freedom fighters, our political prisoners, but we have to remember what the war is about. And so we say free to land, and by any means necessary. So my name is Ruth Ifakemi Efumbemi Jeannoel. I greet you all from South Florida. I am dark-skinned with white glasses. I have a white head wrap on my head. I have braids, and I have a white shirt with some white and green and brown beads. And actually, as I'm looking, I have some sparkly, like, silver earrings for accessibility. And I am the executive director of FAMSAJ. FAMSAJ is a healing justice organization. I greet you all today in the name of Olodumare and also in the name of my ancestors and all of those who made it across the seas and all of those who didn't. I am Iyanifa, which is a Yoruba practice from West Africa, from Nigeria, which has really landed across many traditions, but it is a Yoruba practice of Ifa, which is a practice of destiny, which is a practice of connecting with nature, connecting with our ancestors. And really, for me, has been a liberatory practice. And so the prayers that I'm making today is grounded in that there is one God, and that there are messengers of God. In my faith, in my tradition, there are messengers of God that cultivate through nature. And in the days of the week, so we also honor that days of the week give us information, and that we have a calendar. And today's day, so every day there's a day, a messenger of God of Olodumare, and today is Shango Day. And Shango is the messenger or the Orisha of justice, of fire, and of truth. And so that is going to be the prayer that I make for all of us today. So on this particular Shango Day, and I'll close it off with doing a reading prayer with our Ori, and I'll explain that in a little bit. For today, on this Shango Day, we have Shango, spirit of justice, spirit of truth, spirit of fire. We ask that you stand with all of our healers, organizers, and for all of our people across faiths and traditions, building a world where we and everyone can be free. We remember Bwakaima, where tradition remembers people from 21 nations gathering in ceremony on August 14th, gathering in ceremony, standing together against French colonial rule and igniting the Haitian Revolution. May we remember what becomes possible when people who have been divided choose to stand together. We ask, bring your fire against mass incarceration, against the criminalization of all immigrants, against every system that declares some lives are disposable. We ask to lift up the political prisoners, keep their names alive, let our ancestors speak through us, and especially when institutions refuse to hear them. Give us the courage to tell the truth, the strength to organize, the wisdom to heal, and the fire to build or burn it down. May justice have a body. May truth have a voice. May our ancestors guide our struggle. And may the fire of Bwakaima, and Bwakaima is the
sacred ceremony that started the Haitian Revolution, which is where my ancestors are from. May that fire of Wakaima remind us that liberation is possible, especially when we all stand together. Ashe. So Ashe in the Yoruba language means it is so. So if you agree with what I'm saying, you just say Ashe, and it is. Some people spell it A-S-H-E, but in Yoruba, we spell it A-S-E, okay? And then I'm gonna introduce you all to an affirmation card deck, which is the Sacred Ori card deck, which I created in 2020. I'll put the link in there in case anybody's interested. But either way, there's 16 cards, beautiful art. We worked with Sage, 4 together, and a group of people and beautiful artists. And Ori is our inner head. And our inner head, everybody has an inner head, everybody has an Ori. And so we're asking, what is it that our Ori, our collective Ori, wants us to know or pay attention to and affirm for ourselves today? All right. And so I shuffle the deck. I'm gonna cut it in half. I say, the card that I pulled is Breakthrough, number 14. This is really powerful. So I'm gonna read from the booklet. And then in a moment, I'm gonna ask you all to come off mute and do the affirmation with me together. This is beautiful. This is one of my favorite cards, y'all. And the artist's name is Gina Cherry. And I guess for those for accessibility, this particular art is a feminine being covered, face covered with cowrie shells, dark skin underneath the sea, underneath the ocean, the deepest part of the ocean, right? And there's light and fish in the background, but there's like a light, she's looking up. And light is hitting her. Glistening chocolate skin. All right. Breakthrough, number 14. The time has come to ride out the storm and spoil ourselves. Be committed to getting through the shadows to obtain the abundance that you and your ancestors deserve. When we know what we deserve, we live differently, even in a space of darkness where we can't seem to see our way out. Storms will come and go, but once a storm passes, you can more clearly see a breakthrough. Ashe. So I'll invite you all to come off mute, and then you'll hold your head like this with 2 hands. And if this is the first time, this is our direct connection to God, to Olodumare, right? So if this is the first time that you're doing this today, because most of the time when we're doing this, we're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. We're pulling our ears, our hair out, maybe our ears too, right? But we're just gonna say thank you. We're gonna say thank you to our own Ori. And you will repeat after me. Ori.
Ori.
Allow me
Allow me
to ride out the storm
to ride out the storm
and know
and know
that I am deserving
that I am deserving
of love,
of love,
peace, and harmony.
and harmony.
Ashe.
Asheo.
Ashe. And so that's our breakthrough, y'all. That's our breakthrough. We know that we're in a storm. I'm also an organizer. Like, I do healing justice work, but I'm also an organizer. We know we are in the storm, right? But so much of it is to be able to like find a breakthrough, and we can only do that collectively and together. And so with that, I greet you all, and I thank you all for holding your Ori, being able to find love, peace, and harmony with the spirit of justice, with Shango on your back, front, and sides. Ashe.
Ashe. Oh, wow. Yes. Give Ruth some love. I love that it was also the number 14 after you had already invoked the significance of August 14th in the Haitian Revolution. Thank you so much, Ruth. And next, I'll just ask Minister Adam Barnes to read our calls to action.
Yes, thank you, Ruth. That was excellent. Thank you all. This has been powerful. I'm Adam Barnes, white man with a beard and glasses, wearing a white shirt. And we have a lot of calls to action. You know, everyone's doing a million things out there, and you know, nothing we do this minute is gonna be the answer. But these are several ways that folks in our community are doing things every day to build power, and so I want to share those and offer them as ways to connect and continue to come together. Like Ruth said, it's the only way we can win. So I want to start off with a few from the folks that are here as today as guests and reflecting. From Ruth, a couple of calls to action, and maybe Beth or someone can help me add these links to the chat and to the online. Oh yeah, let me back it up. First of all, I want to invite folks to take the Break the Ice Machine with Black Alliance for Justice Immigration pledge. So the call is to stop names. The violence of what it is, and break the ice machine is how we interrupt it, exposing the system, jamming its gears, and organizing amongst ourselves, making it impossible for the machine to operate. So we'll drop the link. You can learn more about that. Of course, Abe is here representing Baji, and grateful for your teaching today, Abe. From Ruth, we have a few offerings. First of all, call to action for virtual and personal healing spaces. We'll drop the link there. You can learn more on how to connect with Ruth and others around that. There is a call for Haitian Creole interpreters. Folks will probably know with the end of TPS, our Haitian brothers and sisters are in deep crisis and in need of support. So link there if you know anyone for Creole interpreters. Also a call to send letters to your senator and expand TPS. So a link, you can learn more there. Again, with regard to the crises that are tens of thousands of Haitians brothers and sisters in this country are facing right now. A shout out and call for support from our family in Kansas City, Kansas, which was hit hard last week by storms. A lot of cleanup, power, people needing food. And the group called Justice for Wyandotte County has asked for help, and they're gathering in the mornings at 10 a.m. If you're in KCK, to provide folks with food who need it. And if you want to just spread the word or figure out how you can support, we'll drop the link. Okay, stay with me. We got a few more. Our dear Mama Kali, folks may know a powerful leader from Selma, was recently diagnosed with multiple myeloma and is beginning treatment. So folks know Mama's Kali is just, I mean, she's just an amazing leader. Sorry. And this is hard news, of course, for those who know her, but she's a fierce fighter and will fight every step of the way. We know that, and want to invite folks to read more about Mama Kali if you don't know her, and also try and support as she goes through this struggle. Let's see. Yes, some more calls to action around the Haitian community, in particular, those in Springfield, where there's a really strong concentration. I think almost a third of the population in this tiny town is Haitian. And a lot of them are affected by the repeal of TPS. So there is a call tomorrow, actually, at 7 p.m. Eastern, faithful witness call. So it's a sort of emergency call to action from leaders in the Springfield area who we work with. So if you can make that, please do, and continue to support them. Let's see here. Okay, so then our regular stuff, we got sign up for Freedom Church if you haven't already, or if you want to send it to someone and invite them to come be part of this community. We'll drop the link for that. And then a reminder that Wednesdays is Bible study. And Yeah, 6 p.m. Eastern. So we'll drop you can get access to that through the same link. A reminder about the song challenge, Sing Down the Walls song challenge. We've been doing this every week, every day at 7 p.m. Folks have been sharing this song as a protest, breaking out. And it was co-written by children from the Letiah Detention Center. Yes, a detention center where children and families are detained. A powerful song and way to stay in solidarity and continue to be part of and support that struggle. Yeah, so that's the Free Family, and a lot of this initiative was led by the Free Families, which is a way for us to connect every week around the issue of immigration and detention, but not just to kind of share lessons and testimony, but also to build community, to resist and to care for each other. So that meets every week, Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, and we'll drop the link where you can sign up for that, and also a toolkit where you can learn more about how to grow the work. And I think that's it. A lot tonight. Thanks.
Whew. Yes, a lot. Thank you, Minister Adam. Thank you to Ruth and Abe, Minister Arelis, for joining us tonight. Thank you, as always, to Reverend Dr. Letiah Fraser for helping to hold us down, Becca on tech. Just appreciate all of you so much. And for our closing, we've been singing Sing Down the Walls, as Adam said. Sing Down the Walls is a song that was written collaboratively by two of our members of Songs in the Key of Resistance, or SKOR. Letiah and Martine Urbach joined a delegation to Dilley Detention, where they are housing our stolen children and families. And when they met with the children there, they asked the children what they wanted people outside the walls to know, how they were doing. And one of the young people, Valeria from Venezuela, talked about remembering those waves of the ocean in her home country of Venezuela, and said that the children there are as strong as the waves of the ocean. And so this song is inspired in large part by her and the many other children that are there. And Martine and Letiah promised the children that we would get this song out to everyone and that we would sing it everywhere. And so a part of the song pledge that we're doing every night at 7 p.m., wherever you are, we ask that you sing this song for these children. Sing these songs for all those who are incarcerated, whether they're walls or in detention facilities, prison cells, the apartheid wall, the so-called borders around Turtle Island. We sing this song for all of our people to let them know that we love them. And so it goes like this. I sing from here and you sing from there. Together we'll sing down the walls everywhere. With love in our hearts like the waves of the sea. Together we'll sing until everyone's free. I sing from here and you sing from there. Together we'll sing down the walls everywhere. With love in our hearts like the waves of the sea. Together we'll sing until everyone's free. Yo canto acá y tú cantos allá. Y juntos los muros vamos a tumbar. Con nuestro amor como olas del cantando llegamos a la libertad. Yo canto acá y tú cantas allá. Y juntos los muros vamos a tumbar. Con nuestro amor como olas del mar. Cantando llegamos a la libertad. With love in our hearts like the waves of the sea. Together we'll sing until everyone's free. Go with love, free Palestine, and all political prisoners.
Amen.
Amen.